Charge Barbarian mid-game, early late game build. Alrighty boys, so if you watch the video, probably you watched my previous video with Charge Barbarian for early game, and you might be now like at your 50s, 60s, 70s, maybe level 80 or something, or maybe even 100. And in this video I will show you next step of evolution of a build. It's still not the final build, this is a mid-game, early game. It will transform even more, but for now it works perfectly to do 100 dungeons, 100 altars, to do basically everything in the game. It works. So we will see what changed from the early game build, and also we will go through aspects we use and maybe some uniques, and I will try to explain it again in simple plain words so that you can all understand it better and use it to your best value and in a very fun way. Okay, so first of all, what you can see is that we gave up the basic skill, and then we had a slot which I had to decide what to do with it, and I was first going to do Worth of a Berserker, but then I realized it's not so good if you don't spend Fury, and this is quite a non-spending Fury build, which has a lot of pros. You don't depend on Fury generation anymore and stuff, but has some cons as well, because there are certain items we can't really use efficiently, like the Ring of Red Furor. We can't really use efficiently Wrath of a Berserker, and so on. I have some ideas how to fix it in the late game build, but it's still in progress, work in progress. This one is just enough to carry you through all the game in the hardest mode, so it should be enough. And the skill I went with here in the end was, I tested several things, but in the end I landed it on Iron Skin, because I realized that I felt in level 100 dungeons and vaults I was lacking a bit of toughness. So we are doing tons of damage, but we are a little bit squishy. Let's go through the skills now. First two, you have no choice, you still have to put them. We leave them where they were. Make sure you don't spend more than two, because we will not use this node at all. Then we go down again. As I said before, Upheaval, we max it out, and we go all the way down to Furious Upheaval, just because Upheaval will be our second damage dealer, and we need to juice it. We will juice it up as well. From Upheaval, we don't use anything else here. From Upheaval, we go down, and then I put 3 points here and here. This one is kind of a must, more or less, for squishiness. This one is also quite important, but if you want to put it these points in another nodes. And again, just a disclaimer, don't feel obliged to copy it like point by point. You can get inspired from it, and you can switch it a little bit on your liking, and that will be fine as well, as long as the core of the build is used. Alright, event shouts, we put 1 point in each. In this way we go all the way to the end, because we want the fortify. And here we don't need actually one of these nodes, because we don't need either Theory, either Thorn. So, and we save a valuable point that we can use most efficiently. Then again, Iron Skin, only 1 point, don't juice it up, 1 point, and we go all the way down to any of this work. I started with Fortify actually, but then I found out that first I'm missing a little bit of healing besides the potion, and secondly I have just enough Fortify without this node as well. I tested it out, and Fortify is almost always up, so some healing will not damage us at all. Then we go all the way down, and then we go to our brawling skills, where again we put 1 point into the Warcry. We go all the way to this node, as it was in the previous build. We put 3 points in Dominance actually, we want the shout to last longer. We juice up the whole charge, all the points in charge, max points here. And then we go to the node with cooldown. We need to reset it as soon as possible. So that's why we need a lot of ranks here, because with each rank, besides the damage, also the cooldown will go down. So you want to aim to have 10 or less seconds, then you're good. Then we put 3 points here, again damage reduction while berserking, and we will be permanently berserking. And here we put another 3 points for 3 seconds berserking when we're brawling, so we always charge, and that means that we will always be in berserking mode, especially that it will not be 3 seconds, it will be 8 actually. I will cover a little bit later why. Here again, this node I find, this passive I find very important. It gives you damage multiplier for close enemies, and we will always fight close. It's a melee build, but also 6% distant damage reduction is quite a good thing. Ranged mobs are OP, as in D3, they're just very dangerous in high-end content. And then I put 3 here in No Mercy. It's for more critical strike chance, because we will try to charge enemies as often as possible into walls, and that will guarantee a stun. So this will be applied quite often, if not on every charge. Nothing else here. We go down further, and then in ultimate skill we take all these 3 passives, very good. The passive skill we will shift now from Walking Arsenal to Unconstrained. We gave up a skill, it's harder to maintain it, and also Unconstrained is good when you can keep your Berserker Rage up all the time. And we will be always in Berserker mode. Paragon, again disclaimer, is by far not optimized, but it works. And I can see improvements already in it. It's still the Paragon that I put whenever I leveled up first. It works, I didn't touch it yet, but I plan to, and as soon as I optimize it, I will release a new video with a final build or one of the variations of a build, and you can use those. This one works. I will give you a tip what you can improve already, which I saw later in the game. Feel free to copy it, or feel free just to get inspired. We use exploit because we need vulnerable. We get some vulnerable from the pet we can get, but this one is more consistent. It's always hitting the enemies. You get this 3 seconds of vulnerable, and for charge this is more than enough, because most of the time we will one-shot enemies. Sometimes it will be 2 shots, that's it. It's killing very fast, so it's more than enough to have it. Then on this board we take only the legendary node, again for overpower. We will rely heavily on overpower. Overpower will be our main damage dealer. And here we don't actually take a glyph and more nodes, like we just take the legendary node and go out, and we will go. On the next board we go to Blood Rage, which is killing a bleeding enemy has 10% chance to grant Berserking for 5 seconds. So this is just to sustain our Berserking more. Besides the skill we have a passive, we are getting this, and also with a passive it's up to 10 seconds. So that's why we don't run ever while in combat from Berserker mode. And also your damage is increased by 25% of your damage while Berserking bonus. This is very important, and this one is not optimized on my gear yet, but basically what it means, you want to get as much as possible damage while Berserking on your gear. I ignored it a little bit for now, but keep in mind, whenever you get it, keep it, it's very important, because it synergizes very well with this node, and it's a separate multiplier. It's huge. And glyph-wise, I went here with Crusher, because we wield the mace, and we get just this 30% multiplier to overpower. Again, we rely a lot on overpower. Then here we go both ways, and we go to the decimator. Every time we make an enemy vulnerable, we get 10% multiplier for 5 seconds, and then if we overpower on top of a vulnerable enemy, we get another 10% multiplier. This will happen very often. First one will happen every time because we have exploit, and we will be overpowering very often, so second one we will get up quite often. And then we move to Carnage. Carnage again is not very strongest board, but still crits will increase our attack speed up to 16%. We will crit a lot, and we will be in Berserker all the time, so it's another Berserking related node. That's why I took it. This one is quite flexible, you can take it out, you can take another one if you don't like this, but towards the end I was running out of options, like the feather boards were not so strong and appealing. Glyph-wise, Martial is a must. Whatever you change, feel free to change, but Martial is a must. Martial is so OP when you have all 3 shouts on your bar, because Martial, as you can see, whenever we shout, we get 4% cooldown reduction on all other skills. And if you put 3 shouts, you will get 12% cooldown reduction on the other skills. That means that even when we don't get our charge on off cooldown while charging, it will have like 1 second or 2 seconds, whatever. We shout and it will go up straight again. And also it helps a lot with keeping tons of uptime on iron skin. It's a 13 seconds, so whenever it's on cooldown, these 3 shouts will almost instantly bring it up again. So it's up more than half of the time, and then you get all the bonuses. So it's very nice defensive option. Also, you can put Wrath of a Berserker. Again, the shouts will help you a lot with the cooldown. The last board, it's we took Hemorrhage. Your bleeding damage is increased by 15% of your vulnerable damage bonus. And that's again, it's not a mandatory one, but it was chosen just because I didn't have anything else to choose. And that's why I say that it can be optimized. We can give up on some of these nodes and just take maybe some more useful yellow nodes and so on. I will think about it. It's work in progress, but for now, this will be more than enough for you. And glyph-wise, we went to Brawl. Brawling skills deals 18% multiplier damage, and charge, guess what, is brawling skills. So that's a straight multiplier on top of it. Absolutely yes. From immediate improvement, what I see 2 very interesting glyphs that we can use. So feel free to swap 2 of them to these ones. So for me, Ire or Irie, I don't know how exactly we pronounce it. It's quite appealing because while berserking you take 10% damage reduction from elites. So in 100s, level 100s, especially in groups, this will be quite useful. You feel a little bit squishy sometimes, so yeah, just more defense. And as well, we get damage while berserking from the first bonus. And this, as you remember, synergizes very well with a Blood Rage. So that's why Ire has basically, it's a double win for us. So I'm looking forward to work it in my Paragon boards. And another one, but what's very appealing for me is Mortal Draw, because it says swapping weapons has 18% chance to cause skill damage to critically strike. How do we swap weapons? We have to attack with a skill that uses a weapon that is different from the weapon we used in previous attack. Sounds complicated, but it's very easy. As I showed you in the previous guide as well, we attack with 2 skills, so we charge. The charge will charge up our upheaval to 6 stacks, and we upheaval. We charge, we upheaval, and guess what? We use different types of weapon on each of it. So now we can translate this bonus into just flat 18% critical strike chance, which is ginormous. Because in the high end of things, we will alternate the skills very, very often. So whenever we alternate, they will get this 18% chance. 18% crit chance is huge. Remember, even in Diablo 3, like 6% on rings were ginormous, but here we get triple that bonus. These 2, if you wanna modify the Paragon without waiting for the final guide, just feel free to, I would advise you to look forward to use these 2. Okay, gear and aspects. First of all, let's talk about uniques, and I use in this build 2 uniques. One of them is for upheaval, because we are using the upheaval version. So Hellhammer, very, very nice to have, and I would not say it's a must, because still the main damage will come from charge, but it's a very, very good bonus to have. If you don't have it, just use a 2-hand hammer, and we can put like an additional aspect there, like a conversion of elements, or another one. There are 2-3 aspects in line that we can work in this build. If you have it, good for you, and make sure that its most important thing is to get this +6 ranks to upheal. +6, huge. And then of course the burning also, it's a nice bonus on top. It doesn't really do too much damage, but it helps very well, for example, to maintain disobedience and other things like related to damage over time and procs. And the second unique I want to talk about is Ring of Ravenous. This is a new ring that was introduced in this season, and it's very nice it works very nice with charge, because first of all, the biggest thing here is that we are getting +2 up to +3 ranks of brawling skill. So mine is by far not perfect. I found only 2 so far, and both had +2, so there is room for improvement. Also, a strong affix here is up to 12% crit chance. Again, very, very strong for damage dealing. Then the legendary effect, it's quite interesting. It applies automatically rend, and that means that all the enemies we hit will always be bleeding. So all the bonuses related to bleeding enemies will be active, and we can use some of those. And if you want to use this with a pure rend build, like if you don't want to use upheaval and you want to invest in rend, very important thing is that you can put your points in rend, as many as you want, but don't waste any points into feather nodes, because the ring works only with a base skill. It doesn't, these things will not work, will not proc when you do charge. And then in the rest of the slots we have legendaries. Of course, we can walk in a Thibaut wheel, but I didn't do, I did only 4 Durials so far. And it's in my plans, once we get that we will move forward to the next step in the build. And another option that you can use here also on the helm, which works very well, but it's quite a trade-off in toughness. You can use the Tusk Helm of Yoritz, I think it's called, which synergizes very well with this build and gives us the permanent increase 15% damage multiplier, also the cooldown. Very, very nice. Proccing it is not a problem. The problem with this helm that I have, it has almost no toughness on it. So we want on helm a lot of toughness usually and cooldown. This one has no cooldown, this one has no life, no total armor, nothing. So it's very offensive option. In high-end dungeons and vaults, you'll find out that you have more than enough damage, and you would want to trade part of it, to trade it off for getting more tough and be less squishy. So that's why I'm not using it. I might test it, but theoretically, from what I've seen, it should work very, very well, because it's easy to proc and maintain. Alright, aspect-wise, so because I'm not using that, I can put a disobedience on my helm. And then on chest I got the iron skin for now. Very important, because we are using iron skin. So iron skin grants unstoppable and damage reduction up to 28%, which is very, very nice. But as soon as we get Thibaut, you can't use it, and we will swap it. I planned to swap it for the damage reduction from bleeding enemies. But this one, Iron Blood basically, and you can, on this one you can get up to 20% damage reduction, and it will be most of the time up, because we always make them bleed because of a ring. Why you want this? Because you want to stay in unstoppable as little as possible. Remember the metamorphosis? We went to level 1 only. That's what you want. And with charge is perfect, because charge gives us unstoppable only while we charge. As soon as we stop, unstoppable goes away. So that means every charge will proc Thibaut's. And that means that we will get a lot of resource back, and then we can play around with that resource. And of course, 40%, up to 40% damage multiplier, always up. Next, on pants I put the new aspect, Juggernaut, that gives us just flat damage, crazy flat damage, and very, very important, and I think it's a must in every build now. You can trade off Disobedience, but never Juggernaut. Juggernaut is, first of all, gives us much more armor than Disobedience, and also we don't need to maintain it. We put it and it's a flat bonus to your armor. You don't have to do anything, just to wear it. And important thing, this one does not work in town. So the armor here you see is without Juggernaut. If you want to test things, just go outside the town. Make sure you're outside, and then you'll see the real number here in armor. Boots, on boots we get Unstoppable. So the Ghost Walker, that's... Ghost Walker is, I think it's the go-to here. It gives us permanently movement speed 25%. So we are very mobile and move very fast, and this will be up all the time, because again, charge gives us unstoppable and we charge almost every second. So this will be permanently up. Consider it a 25% movement speed, and also sometimes it will save you, because even with all this cooldown and stuff, rotation wise, you might miss sometimes your charge or stuff. You will find yourself from time to time, quite rarely to be honest, but still there will be cases when you'll find yourself surrounded by enemies with charge on cooldown, with upheaval on cooldown, and then these ones will save you because you can freely move through enemies, so you will be able to get out of the trouble, even using an evade to get it even faster. So yeah. Hellhammer I covered. Here we use the aspect of Veteran Brawler, and this is a nice bonus. Core skills will buff our charge and leap. We use charge in our case. Will buff our charge up to 40%. So what it does, it's like per enemy hit you get 1 stack, and for each stack you get 8% in when it's maxed out. And when you upheaval, and usually we do upheaval in the crowd, we always get straight away the max bonus. So it's just a perfect synergy. We charge into the enemies, and that charge will give us 6 stacks on upheaval. Then we upheaval into the enemies in the remaining living ones, and that will give us straight away 5 stacks and 40% damage to our charge. Then we charge again and use that bonus, so our strong charge, and in this time we again charge up upheaval and so on. So it's like a loop, and each skill is buffed by the previous skill and buffs again the next skill. So it's a very nice cycle in the nature basically. Next one, I went here with Earth Strikers, and this is a must in the build, I would say, and I just realized that I skipped the gloves aspect. We will get back to them. So Earth Striker, whenever you swap enemies 8 times, you get a guaranteed overpower and deal 50%, up to 50% increased overpower damage. With main thing here is to get the guaranteed overpower. So even if you don't get 50%, don't worry. It's not about that multiplier. That multiplier is nice, don't get me wrong, a good bonus, but we want basically the main thing, so guaranteed overpower. Whenever you play overpowered builds, you want as many sources of guaranteed overpower as possible, because otherwise you have just a flat 3% chance on attack to overpower, and that cannot be relied on. So yeah, and again, because of our playstyle, charge upheaval, charge upheaval, charge upheaval, this will go up very fast, and every time it will be like either charge will overpower, either upheaval, depends what will be the 8th one. Doesn't matter, for both the overpower will be very, very strong. Then let's go to gloves, because I forgot. So here we take, because we use upheaval, we will take the Sunder Ground, and that's a guaranteed overpower for our upheaval, which is nice to have, and also quite a nice multiplier on top. But yeah, again, as I mentioned, every guaranteed source of overpower is more than welcome into the build. And here on this two-hander, we take the Ancestral Charge. Must have in this build. It increases so much the quality of life of charging, because without it, and it gives us damage as well, but the main thing is this 4 colovations. So first of all, if we take it off without having it, whenever we charge, our hit zone is quite narrow, so we go in a line and we have to make sure we hit the enemy, and in large, like even in this pool, but sometimes we'll have even wider pools, we will hit only the middle of it or the side of it, depends where we charge. And in single target also, it's very easy to miss the target. Like if they move a little bit, we can charge near them, we don't hit them, we don't get the cooldown back, and we don't do damage. So this one, what it does, besides the damage multiplier, we are getting the Asians and they charge in line. So we get 2 on one side, 2 on another side, and we become basically a big rake that we sweep the whole screen. And it's very, very useful, especially in the open world, when you do Hell Tides or other open world activities. You just swipe the whole screen. Very, very nice. Let me show you how it works. So we charge, you can see it's a line, and all this line hits and takes enemies with it. So even if this one will move here, he will still run into our Asians. So very, 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 very big improvement in charging, and trust me, I will show you towards the end of a video some gameplay footage, and you'll see how important it is. And of course, on top of it, we are getting up to 60% multiplier, which again, why not? Multipliers are very welcome. And the ring is only one, and on the ring we put the chieftain's band, and this is also a must, I think, because it helps us to get the cooldowns on the shouts. I remember shouts helps us with the cooldown on the other skills, so again it's a very good synergy. And on amulet I put the Edge Master, so skill deal up to 30% damage, increased damage based on your fury, and you gain the maximum benefit while at full primal resource. And remember, charge is not a spending build. Charge doesn't spend fury, so you have always fury up because of a seneschal. I will cover it. Then you just charge. So this helps a lot in open world when we don't upheaval so often. So in open world, what you do, you basically just charge around because you are one-shotting everything, and that means that you'll get Edge Master always max effect from it. Okay, gem wise, always ruby everywhere, and then in the rings and in the jewelry you put whatever you need to balance your resistances. As you can see now, I have everything green, and this is the target that you want to move to. And yeah, whatever you are lacking here, you put in jewelry. Let's go through the affixes, what you want basically. So on helm you go as defensive as possible, so you want cooldown, you want max life first of all, and total armor, percent total armor. Then you would like cooldown usually. And fourth one is a little bit flexible. It can be damage reduction, it can be, in my case, it's fire resistance, but you go for whatever you need. But again, it should be defensive. Chest, you want, again, max life. You want to roll max life whatever you can, because in this season they change the way percent maximum life works. So your health pool is calculating differently now, and all these bonuses go through this multiplier. In the previous version, previous season, it was you get all your multipliers on a base life, and this extra life that you get from gear will be added on top without being multiplied. Now it gets for all the multipliers, so 1000 here will not actually add 1000, will add much more because it will be multiplied by the total percent life you have on your gear and in your paragon. So that's why it's very valuable to have it. And then you go to health pools, like this is 20k, but you can go up to 50k and stuff if you get like even more. So life, percent damage, damage reduction, and you would want like damage reduction from close, or damage reduction from distant, whatever damage reduction works for you. Here I got not the perfect one, but still it's a poison resistance, which helps in a way. And then gloves, here we want, most important one is upheaval, because we use upheaval, so we want +4 to upheaval. Then it's, you would like crit strike chance, I would say it's next. Then you want overpower and strength, or overpower and attack speed, and all stats is also not too bad. On pants, you want +4 to charge, again big damage boost, but most important cooldown, it gets down the cooldown. Then you want max life and total armor, and then you want some kind of damage reduction probably, or you can work in a resistance if you find one. But ideal one would be just flat damage reduction from all sources, but if not, you can get some damage reduction from close or distant, and in our cases from bleeding enemies, which I mentioned before, works every time because everyone will be bleeding, so it works, it's up. Boots, you want usually to put here 3 resistances and then balance the other 2 with jewelry and maybe a slot here, and you even can go to 4 resistances, that works as well. You lose a little bit of movement speed, but because of a ghost walker is always up, you get still 25% movement speed. So movement speed is nice to have, but it's not a must. So you can think about 4 resistances on this as well. 3, it's very good to have. So you should aim for 3 resistances plus movement speed. What you want here ideally, you want to target for strength, all stats, overpower, and damage while berserking. And then this would be the ideal one. But if you don't get that, of course, you should aim to get as many as possible out of 4. So 3 out of 4 I have here. This is the minimum you should strive for. So whenever you have only 2 out of 4 or 1 out of 4, try to swap your weapon and for a better one. And the same goes for all the weapons. Then on rings, again, I like to have max life, very important and very useful this season, twice as useful or even more. Then I like to have crit chance, lucky hit, and overpower, or I don't know if you can roll damage while berserking, and then maybe you can swap out lucky hit. But crit chance, max life a must, and then other two are quite flexible. And on amulet here, I like to I went with +3 to defensive skills and +3 to brawling. +3 to brawling, very important and non-flexible, I would say, non-negotiable. +3 to defensive skill you can negotiate, but for me it works very well because remember, defensive skill, this is 2 shouts, brawling skill is the third shout, so then you have basically +3 to all shouts. Also, Iron Skin is a defensive skill, so we get the benefit here as well. Then in another two, you might want cooldown, you might want movement speed, whatever you want. I prefer to go defensive, so I took total armor, damage reduction. You can also go strength, for example, and get your attack power up very well, like in a more offensive way. Here for amulet also, you can use, and you should use at some point, I think, the Banish Lord. I don't have a good one yet with a big multiplier, but Banish Lord will not help our charge. It will work on our upheaval, the first bonus, but it will work on our charge, the second bonus, the critical. Whenever our charge will crit and overpower, it will get this huge, more than double damage basically. And the cost of it, of course, we lose +3 to all those skills, but we get a +2 to core skills, so it helps our upheaval a little bit, and also we get crit overpower here and resource generation that we don't need. Damage wise, Banished Lord will be the better option. So especially if you happen to have a Shaco and you don't lose too many ranks on your charge, or you have the Seneschal Shaco, the Evernight, easier to transition to Banish Lord. Yeah, and gameplay wise, nothing changes from what I've said in the first video. You basically, all you want to do, you put your shouts on cooldown, on numlock. This is the easiest way. You can press them manually if you want, but I prefer it to set and forget. Also, I put on numlock my Iron Skin, so whenever it's up, it auto-casts. And then it's basically reduced back to 2 buttons build. And then what you want to do in the open world, you charge, you get 6 stacks max. Usually you want to take like a step back just to upheaval, and because this cone goes more wide, so you want them in the thick of it. Once you upheaval, you charge again, and so on. So basically upheaval, then charge, and you can see that our charge gets almost instantly up. And upheaval, again charge, upheaval, and so on. Very, very easy. I know I talked a lot, but I tried to go through each detail more or less of this and still explain in simple words, so hopefully it was helpful for you. Let me show you some game footage. So if you go, for example, for Helltide, you will see that now you'll breeze through it. So again, remember, our 4 skills are on autocast, and we'll do only 2 skills. And you will see now the rake on the screen, basically. You'll see now how important are the Ancients aspect. Here we go, you see. This pull, charge, that one shot. You just gather the cinders. Again, upheaval, one shot. But in open world, because you are so powerful, you don't really want to upheaval. Basically, just charge, dead. You go again. Charge, dead. And you one-shot bosses as well, and you one-shot goblins as well, so it's very, very nice. Again, you see, charge that. And this is in open space. If you are lucky to charge them into the terrain, it's even more damage, because charge the second rune tells us that whenever we knock back them into terrain, we deal additional damage, and also we stun them, but nothing, they barely remain alive, so you don't even see the stun, but you'll see it in the wall. Here you see all of them, one charge, all of them dead. Well, except this one, but again, most of them dead, so very, very easy. And then in Nightmare Vaults, this is a 100. I'm just waiting for the shrines to go up so you can see the pure damage and stuff. Again, this is on cooldown, and here we will want to do the proper rotation. So charge upheaval, charge upheaval. This will help us with the Earth Striker and also the max output damage. And we always try to charge them into the wall, so that we get the stun. We keep them stunned most of the time, and also we get extra damage to them. So you can see here, elites, done. Again, upheaval, we charge and again, upheaval. We charge again, and we died because I didn't drink a potion. I'm still not used to drink a potion after the vampiric powers. I got so used to auto healing, but I forgot how to drink potions. Charge, upheaval, charge again, and you can skip upheaval, for example, and charge as well, but with upheaval is better. Charge, upheaval, charge. And of course, I almost forgot about the Seneschal. Seneschal, we use 2 governing stones, usually. That's what I use, but Flash of Adrenaline will be used by most of the players. And then we get Tempest. So let's, first of Flash of Adrenaline, it's a flat damage multiplier to us. At max level is 20%. And then I put on it duration support, so it lasts 4 seconds more. So it has a cooldown of 12 seconds, and it lasts now 12 seconds, so it's permanent. When it expires, it's reapplied straight away. We have tactical support to decrease the cooldown, so again, to reach these 12 numbers. And here I use initiative support, which makes the Seneschal to teleport to me, because Flash of Adrenaline is applied by him all basically biting you, so he comes to you in melee range. So as you can see, as you know, in maps he will lag quite behind, and that means that you will not get consistent Flash of Adrenaline on you. And if you are okay with that, it's fine. Then you can put some Fortify here, for example, or other ability that works for you. But I found out with teleport is much more consistent, because whenever 12 seconds expires, he will teleport on top of you from any point of a map, and will reapply the Flash of Adrenaline. That means you'll have like 99.99% of the time that buff up, which is quite significant. And here we use Tempest, and we don't use it for damage, we use it for the attack speed. This one is 1.1 attack speed now, because I'm using a two-hander, but if you use a one-hander or dual wielding, it will be 0.9 by default, and you can decrease it even more with a supporting gem of speed. What I'm using here is, first of all, Safeguard, that gives us a permanent 15% damage reduction, because again, it's for 3 seconds, and Tempest will attack every 1.1 seconds, so it's plenty of time to get this reapplied, so it will be permanent, as well as the critical strike. So whenever it hits an enemy, we get 15% critical strike chance on that enemy, and this is we can disregard it during the crowd fights, but it's very useful during boss fights, because this applies again a permanent 15% crit chance on top of our crit chance. Very, very nice to have. And third one again is flexible. I'm using now resource because it's quite handy. It helps me keeping the resource at max. That makes the mentioned aspects work better, and also with our upheaval. We don't really need it, but it's quite useful. Once I get Thibaut, we will definitely not need it, because Thibaut will get us tons of resources back, and then we can swap it for, I would say, what I like the most is breaking support, that gives us vulnerable and also destroys enemy barrier. So this helps with Varshan, this helps with Butcher, breaking the barriers, so it's nice to have it. That would be it. I know it in the end it's quite long, but we went very detailed into everything, so I hope every one of you will find that small part, that niche part that they were not aware about, so you'll get a small piece of useful information for each of you. And see you in the next video or on live stream. Take care, be happy. Cheers.